leadership is not for everyone. Yeah, and there's nothing wrong if you don't embark on a leadership journey. Leadership really is a rehearsal for life, I feel. To be honest, if you tell them that leadership only shows up in 3 times of each year, I think a lot of people can excel in that.
Such a time is much more important to really focus on the company's mission rather than managing the egos of these two co-founders. Hello, hi, I'm Kausern Hieu. Welcome back to Building Better Leaders podcast with Kausern Hieu. That's me. So where I've got a companion or a guest to come in to try to figure out how to answer some of those difficult letters that you've written in, but nevertheless really real and challenging as well. So thanks for the letters that we have been receiving. And today we have got a written guest by co-writer Seok Hian. So hello Seok Hian. Welcome to the show.
Hi. Thanks for having me today.
Okay, so for those who don't know about Seok Hian, a little bit about Seok Hian from my side, or how she has added value to me and how she has also helped me to be where I am today actually. So Seok Hian, as mentioned I think in an earlier episode, that she's able to help me to synthesize very complex thoughts into very simple thoughts. But I realized that it's because she's able to understand this thing called multi-dimension. So she's able to look at, for example, how does a particular situation affect inside out, up and down, what else? Community or solo.
You make me sound like a drone.
Or systemic organization to internal microprocesses. And I just realized that she's also able to see the future as well as the present as well. So this story, probably I haven't told you this before. This is quite interesting. So Seok Hian, just to let you know how capable she is, or how fantastic she is in her work, right, as a HR consultant. When I met her the first time 13 years ago, and I remember during onboarding, she showed me, the onboarding board, the plan and everything and so on. She was run through the slide one by one. And then this particular slide, which I thought was pretty controversial at the time, but today, it's not. She said that I foresee that in the future, there will not be any more permanent jobs. Everything will be project basis. I was like, because a dotted line report to Seok Hian. So also in my heart I was like, yeah right. But I was like, oh well, that's interesting, that kind of thing. But look at today, right? It's so difficult to actually get some young people to join the workforce to be permanent because they rather freelance and do other things, right? So she is multidimensional, future as well as also present. And she's also a co-writer for our book, right? Called Leadership is Not Automatic. And the reason why I'm dressed in all red today, and also is because of this book, right, that we've written together, Leadership is Not Automatic. The reason why we chose red is because we were given many different colors to choose from. And red is something which I wouldn't go, at first glance, right? Because it's just too loud. But I realized that red is important because it is almost like danger sign, right? So that's the reason why I chose red, because indeed leadership is not automatic. There needs to be a lot of intentionality. So it's kind of like, hey, stop, look here, rethink again. So that's why we chose red. Anyway, enough about our little project as well as also myself. So over to you, Seok Hian. Please introduce yourself for those who do not know you.
All right, thank you. And now I'm speechless. I don't know where to start. You make me sound like a drone, sound like a ChatGPT and all this. But actually, no. But thank you very much for all the kind words. I really appreciate it. And I really enjoy the times when we work together. It was great and fun. Yes, I think red is danger. It's also about power. and it's also about being auspicious and a privileged position. So I think that fits really leadership. It's not automatic very well. So anyway, we'll talk more about the little project we had sometime later. Yes, hi everyone. Very happy to be here with Kausern and with all of you. I am a HR professional in the last 20 over years, and yes, I do specialize in talent management, and 10 years ago I left corporate and now become a consultant, a coach, and also continue to kind of be a trainer and work with team dynamics. So the system thinking and all this very much helps in when we work with leaders and teams in organization, because I think one key message we want to let all leaders know is that you don't operate in silos. You operate in an organization ecosystems that it does influence you, but there is also about there is a space where as a leader you're empowered to be. So I hope that through answering a few letters from young leaders, and we can give some insights. We can give some insights that are relevant to the situations. Yep.
Okay, thank you. Thanks for the introduction, but I think more importantly, thank you for being here as a companion with me to answer some of these very difficult questions that we have received. So let's go on to the first question, or the first letter actually. I kind of label this particular letter as a corporate Game of Thrones.
Yes.
So let's go. So dear Building Better Leaders, I work in a company led by two co-founders who quite frankly don't get along. They disagree in meetings, sometimes subtly, sometimes not. Their visions pull in opposite directions, and the head of departments often find themselves caught between conflicting messages. One founder might approve a direction only for the other to overturn it the next day. And as an HOD, I often feel caught in the crossfire trying to get my job done while dodging office politics. So as a mid-level manager, I just want clarity so I can lead my team well. But instead, I spend half my time navigating politics I have no power to change. It's exhausting. I want to focus on results and helping my team to grow, but I feel like I'm playing a game I never signed up for, and I'm starting to see different camps forming. What do you do when the dysfunction is coming from the top?
Wow, this is really hard.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, it is hard actually. Yeah. So, as always, hard questions. Ladies first.
That's very graceful of you. Yeah, I think it really is a good analogy as in a family and the parents are quarreling all the time. Yeah, I think that's a good analogy to use. So it's always hard on the kid, right? And even for the relatives like auntie, uncles, and all this. Many times we are forced to take sides when there is differences. Yeah. So I think from the letter and the way it sounds, this writer basically is caught in a crossfire.
Yes.
Yeah. So and I know I love this book, An Everyone Culture, written by Robert Keegan. I think inside he talk about there's a primary job and a secondary job that people play or people work. So the primary job is what you sign up for, and the secondary job is where you end up spending energy and time and attention to mitigate or navigate dynamics like this. Yeah. So now clearly the situation in the company has gone to people have to spend a large part of their energy and resources to manage to do the second job instead of performing in the first job.
Yeah.
So I've also advised co-founders or mediate and conducted relationship coaching for co-founders in this kind of situation where they want to fall apart, where they want to sell the company, the other one doesn't, that kind of situation. A lot of times, honestly, external intervention is needed, be it like an external coach or each of them has to go through coaching, or you get a facilitator in and all this, because it's at the top of it. Yeah. So where the dysfunctions comes from the top is external intervention. The bottom usually will have very limited authority and power to kind of make sense out of this whole thing. And clearly the co-founders have miss the big picture right now and get into a very personal level of attack or disagreement. If the intervention comes from internal, then it has to be leveraged on. It has to leverage on close relationship within that network. So it could be a HR person, not because of the job role, but because this HR person is very close to one of the co-founder, or a CFO who is close to the other co-founder, to kind of talk sense into this pair of leaders. Yeah, but it can be quite difficult. Yeah.
So like for this letter writer who is in mid-management, so let's say for example, clearly from an external intervention it's going to be quite difficult because this person has no power, unless of course at that point in time there is a HR consultant like a Seok Hian there, right? So then at least it can be somehow being elevated, this problem. But let's say if it's there isn't anyone, so from an internal intervention, I think it's how would someone like this person be able to initiate some sort of internal intervention? Is it through HR or how does that work?
Normally, I would also advise them to have open conversations. That means, first of all is to have open conversations to really, in some sense, to clarify the ownership of decision ownership. Yeah, because a co-founder likely have their own territory, so-called their scope of work to take care of, right? One way is to clarify as much as possible so that it to a large extent they can divide and conquer and still keep the company afloat. Yeah, and on gray areas or matters, then it's important to establish certain rules of engagement. How can we get an alignment and not undermine each other's leadership, by overturning the decisions. Yeah, and whenever possible, if it's a co-decision making, then as a HOD, you can still facilitate, and kind of have an open conversation internally to say that, hey, look, can we agree on this and not turn back the clock, after a day or two. Yeah. So it's to keep things as professional as possible. Yeah, that is on a coping mechanism, but that is not resolving the conflict between them.
I see. It's almost like a strategy to navigate.
Yeah, it's to navigate. And as a HOD, then my advice without external intervention then is just to focus on the BAU and keep the operations running while we buy time to help to see what else can we do to resolve the co-founders conflict.
Okay.
Yeah.
I would, in such cases, a lot of times during coaching sessions, I would first of all acknowledge, of course, it's going to be quite difficult, very difficult in this situation, and also to be able to empathize with them to say that the reason why this bothers you is because you care. You care enough for the company, right? You care enough for everyone. That's why you are bringing this up in this case. But because sometimes they are so into it, right? So they care too much. The one question I usually would like to ask them is that what is it that you can control and what is it that you can't control?
Yeah,
right.
That's a good starting point.
So that is something which we usually get them to think about. And in this case, definitely they can't control their mid-level. This person cannot fix. They can influence possibly, but they can't fix them in this case. And I think then what can be controlled is, number one, do not funnel down whatever's happening at the top to the bottom in this case, right? But instead filter rather than funneling in this case, to filter what is important for the business so that the front line can continue to deliver on those things, right? So I think perhaps maybe one of my values is clarity. I think it's very important that the people, at least the front line, because they're going out for war in this case, they need to be very clear what's the mission, and we can't pass down ambiguity, especially in this case where it's like one say this and the next day the other person were to say that in this case. And one thing that this mid-level letter writer can do as well is also to not take sides as well, right?
Yes.
It's something which he or she can control, is to avoid taking sides. Right? But it's quite easy sometimes to to spill the tea or get into the goss in this case, right? But it's going to be quite. That's why it is very intentional that at such a time it's much more important to really focus on the company's mission rather than managing the egos of these two co-founders in this case, right? So check in what can be controlled and what cannot be controlled. That is a good starting point for this letter writer to consider.
I think one point to add on to this perspective is sometimes it depends on the size of the company as well. So if it's really too small, everybody would know it will become an open secret when the two co-founders couldn't get along, right? Because it just gets too obvious. So sometimes you may have to take sides. Yeah, sometimes I think they will be forced to take sides even if you personally don't want. So I think as a HOD, you can still have private conversations to say that, on the professional capacity wise, I will have to side because this is my direct boss. But I think from a personal wise, you can still have conversations to actually talk to the two co-founders and see what else you can leverage from a personal relationship standpoint.
How about this thing called just naming or calling the elephant in the room? Will that help the situation for this letter writer in this case to kind of like for example, if this person is reporting to one of the co-founders, and to be able to just say, hey, look, we are fully aware of what's really happening. The rest of the HODs are, and we are struggling and trying to understand what's really going on, right? I mean, in terms of you say this, and then the next day the other person say that, right? And it's confusing the people in the front line. It's not helping the business, and I, we have the rest of the HODs. We have sat down. We talked about it on how to navigate this so that there's clarity that's being funneled down, but yet it's still not really helping. Everyone knows about it, right? It's the elephant in the room. So I just would like to call it out. But that's where it's like it just stops there. But what do I, please sort it out. I mean, I can't tell that to the boss, right? I can only just call it out. So I'm just wondering, how do you carry out that further conversation to ask them to really rethink that their actions are not helping the business?
As HOD, they can call it out, but it does come with a potential danger of becoming a common enemy of both co-founders, right?
Yeah.
And therefore, I always suggest an external intervention. But if they have to call it out, but they cannot resolve it because it's out of their control.
Yes.
But I think it's to really remind them of what is the original intent when the two of you get together and set up this company. And ask them some open questions like, what is the price you are now paying with this kind of dynamic between the two of you? Are you all even aware of the consequences and the impact you're creating as co-founders? And is this the decision to continue like this? Right? If that's your decision, then as employees, we also make our own decisions whether to leave or stay. I think it's so that is to really put things on the table and talk about it. Because I think from a co-founder's perspective, a lot of times they're also as young as the HOD, if not younger sometimes, is that they get so sucked up into the personal conflict that they lose the sight of the big picture or the original intent why I want to partner with this person in the first place. Yeah, so that could be one aspect. But when it comes to co-founder, another way to leverage in so-called sub-internal kind of relations is through the board. Yeah, if there is a board of advisors.
Okay.
Yeah. So at a co-founder, usually then you involve the board because the board who have invested the money wants to make sure the company thrives and this continues and therefore it might not go well. Yeah. So the board might actually take action or intervene or advise otherwise. So if the conflict is at a HOD level, then at least we can leverage on the co-founders level to talk sense into and to mediate. Yeah.
I agree. Okay. The other thing that I would probably advise, I would advise the letter writer to consider as well, if all these things after they try and it's still, there's no progress in this case, is to really ask the hard question herself or himself that, is this sustainable?
Yeah.
for the person's mental health and also the kind of what you said just now in terms of secondary job, right? Is it
Yes.
really kind of like sucking, the actual
Energy.
mission of the person? And if this continues and it's not helpful, and if Monday comes and you're dragging your feet to, and instead of like trying to win new businesses, or try to win curry favor from the client and all these things, but instead you are trying the question that you may have in your head is like, I wonder what's the weather of this 2% today, right? So if that continues, then I don't think it's going to be helpful. I think this person have all the permission to think about whether or not this person will continue to stay or to go.
Yeah. I think when it comes to conflict, right, since we talk about this topic, is that there are some inherent tension that is built into an organization, especially when it starts to grow. So for example, like finance control costs, but marketing spends money. So these are actually meant for check and balance and healthy, for the health of the organization. And these are inherent tension that are not meant to go away. But a lot of times as co-founders, as the company grows, or as leaders, right, sometimes they are in the system for so long that they feel that how come they mistaken all these healthy tension as personal conflicts. Or over time when they feel that, it's like over time when marketing keeps spending money and spend more and more money as the company grows, and then finance want to control more SOPs and costs and all those things. And if they do not understand that there are inherent tension needed to keep the company safe and sustainable, and it is very easy to actually mistake those as personal conflicts. It's like, what is it you have issues with me? That kind of thing. Why you keep this cutting down my budget, and things like that. So if leaders do not understand the bigger picture of how business operates, it can lead to a lot of personal, conflicts unknowingly. Yeah, which actually is not meant to go away. These tensions are meant to stay in order to keep the company healthy.
I'm just being reminded about this tension thing. I think a lot of times, me being also someone who is still learning how to confront people in a very healthy way in this case, or there is needed tension, right? So I'm being reminded that there is good tension and there's bad tension, right?
Yes.
So I think, but it is needed. That the good tension is needed. Because let's think about it this way: if there is no tension, then you can't play the guitar, right? So the guitar needs to have a tune to a certain tension, or the racket, for example, a racket game, racket. So it needs to be tuned to a certain tension so that it can deliver that swing in this case, the serve, right? So I think it's really important to be able to understand that tension is important, because it is for the greater good, and also it somehow it's also would be a catalyst for creativity as well because of the tension.
Yes.
Right.
Yes.
So this is new to me. I mean, I never thought of it from that point of view. That's indeed right. Some people may take it very personally to say that, it's you against me, but it is not, right? And because they may not be able to communicate it very clearly, so it may come across as very personal.
Yeah, I mean, back to the analogy of parents quarreling in a household, right? Because there are different roles as a nurturing figure and an authority figure. There can be inherent tension. You do the scolding, but I'll do the pep talk and all these things. But it cannot be just because it's a different approach. It doesn't mean that, I'm doing pep talk because you are the authority figure and I'm trying to do it against you and get the child's relationship over to my side. It cannot be perceived this way. Yeah. So there must be at the alignment level at the top.
Okay.
Still.
Okay. Got it. Okay. So what are we telling our letter writer is that first of all, as a leader, he or she needs to be able to understand there's a primary and as well as a secondary job to it, especially as a leader, because there's this thing which sometimes you may think that you didn't sign up for it, things like managing conflicts and all these things, but it is part of the job in this case, right? And if the secondary job becomes too overwhelming, then there's something which you need to question yourself again to say, is it sustainable or not, right? The second thing that the letter writer can consider, of course, is to also ask themselves what can be controlled and what cannot be controlled, right, in this case. And to make sure that this person can double down on what can be controlled, like for example, ensuring that there's clarity that's being passed down instead of ambiguity, those things which this person can control. The letter writer should also somehow find a way to influence some kind of external intervention, if possible. This can be quite difficult, but if there is an opportunity to really consider that, and one of the ways is, of course, is through the board in this case. But I think based on a particular experience which I hear as well, I've got no experience about that here also, that sometimes the board actually do know about such cases already. Yeah.
Yes.
So they do know
but
that
board
such
is
things.
another dynamic though.
Yeah.
So I have to approach with caution.
Yes, you're right. And also the other side point that we talked just earlier on, it's about understanding there's good tension as well as also so-called unhealthy tensions, and we need to have such tensions because it will help the company to thrive actually, in this case. But be careful that sometimes we may mistake such tensions as personal attacks in this case. So I think that is some pointers that I caught. Did I miss out anything that which would be helpful for the letter writer?
No, I think you've really encapsulated all the points very well.
Okay. All right. So let's move on to letter number 2.
Sure.
Dear Building Better Leaders, I recently got promoted to lead a team I've been a part of for years. I used to be one of the gang. We would vent about management and work late nights together. That sounds fun. But now that I'm their manager, everything feels ... awkward. Some team members have started treating me differently, more distant, overly formal, or worse, passive-aggressive. I'm trying not to let the power dynamic change our rapport, but maybe it already has. Some team members may be taking advantage of me too. There are moments where I hesitate to give direct feedback or hold someone accountable because I worry it will damage the relationship. I don't want to become one of those bosses, but I also know I have a job to do. How do you lead people who used to be your equals without losing the friendship?
Hard. Another one, difficult. But it's very common.
Yes, it is. When peers, get promoted.
Yes.
I probably would. Let me start off with this.
Yes,
this is quite
please.
common. I think first of all, to the letter writer, congratulations on your promotion. There is a reason why you're being promoted. I think it's also very important to ask that question to your boss as well, to say why were you promoted, why were you chosen to be promoted versus the rest of them. So at least you kind of know, the reason why you were being picked. And when you have conversations with the rest of the peers, especially during one-on-ones, it is something which you understand at the back of mind that you have every right to be in that position because of that particular endorsement that was given to you by the boss. Because if you do not know why you're there in the first place, there's a lot of second guessing and may not be very helpful. So the clarity does help to give you the good power to understand why you're there for that role at that point of time in this case. I would say that to this letter writer, it will not be the same.
Yes.
It will not be the same as before. I mean, in this case, I do not want to sugarcoat it in any way. It will not be the same. So that's why it's important to understand the reason why you're there, and also to understand the definition of leadership. The reason why you're being put there most of the time is because probably the higher ups can see that you're able to bring out the best in the team, to help them to grow, and so on and so forth, right? And then it is not really about losing that friendship. I would probably say to this letter writer to redefine or reframe his or her understanding of friendship in this case, right? To redefine that rather than, it's not going to be the same as before, but it can be better, right? So in this case, it is really about helping them to understand that, okay, so now I'm being put here not because I'm better than you or in any way, but it's because I have this particular skill that I could help you to grow. I can able to bring out the best in you in this case, right? So by understanding that, so the relationship turns into something which is like, my job is to help you to succeed in this role. So if this person can deliver on all those fronts, then there will be trust that's going to be built in this case. And I think that itself ultimately is trust, whether it's a friendship or not, is the foundation of every relationship. I think that's really important to be able to help the other person to achieve what this person wants in this case. I'll stop here. Any thoughts on what I just said?
Oh, I fully agree. I couldn't agree with you more. I think friendship is definitely something that it can coexist. I think that's the first assumption I want to address to the letter writer here, is that actually professional relationship and friendship can coexist. So I'll actually like to pose a question to this letter writer, right? To say that, imagine that in the past, without authority and power, you can actually maintain friendship.
Yeah.
What can you do now that you can actually, now that you are, you have the authority to actually nurture this friendship? Yeah. So that is one question I want them to hold it in their head, because it kind of addressed the assumptions that it is a either or thing. Yeah. I think from the way they wrote the letter, it kind of, that assumption stood out for me. So I think, what if you want both? That means you don't get into a binary thinking of this or that, but it's like this and that. And I think as you were talking about friendship, it actually struck to me that there might be two types of friendship. One type of friendship is where you have a good chit chat, you share a lot of past memories and all those things, but then you are just having a great time. Okay, and that's what we do a lot of times in our usual life, in outside work and the friends outside work.
Yeah.
But there's also another kind of friendship where you want to kind of like see each other's growth.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so it's focusing on the future kind of friendship where, the two of you or whoever you have your friends with, to kind of work towards certain direction of growth. Yeah, I think it is to ask the letter writer to kind of take a step back and say that, which friendship actually do you want to forge with this group of people? There might be some team members in the group, right, that actually just want the first kind of friendship. They just want to have happy memories. Yeah, but I don't want to grow. Don't force me to, do anything. But there could be also other team members or the gangs, so-called, to kind of like, hey, want to grow with you in that sense. And now that you have authority, you can actually have more empowerment to set me up for success. And I want to be on the journey. I think it's to clarify that. So that's one aspect. The other aspect is, I fully agree, is like, how do you redefine leadership in this case, right? And one concept I love a lot is situational leadership. So it's important for young leaders especially, that to know that in the 8, 10, 16 hours you have in your professional capacity at work, you don't just wear one hat. You wear multiple hats in that 16 hours or 10 hours in different interaction. So in other words, you can continue to wear friendship hat as and when it's needed. It doesn't mean that it's only after you knock off, after work and all this.
Yeah. That reminds me of, because I used to struggle with this friendship leadership, that kind of thing, right? I think it's possibly because I didn't know what I was called to do in this case, right? So it's kind of like, it's almost like, oh, so now I'm just, there was no definition. It was more of like, oh, I'm there to just take care of two. So take care means what? So I really don't know what does that really even means, right? So take care means friendship, So there was a lot of ambiguity and not very clear about it. But over time, I started to be a bit better. I remember doing this, which was actually kind of helpful. But so I would say that, like, okay, right now I literally would do this. I said, right now I am taking out my friendship hat and I'm putting on my the manager's hat, speaking to you this way. So it kind of like almost switch it around. So the person will like, oh, okay, I understand now, because now you're speaking with authority in this case.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I think that that little action helped a lot for myself to get the clarity as well, but also to be able to manage the expectation on the other side of the table.
Yes, that's a good point, because I think like the book, like our book, right, we mentioned about leadership is not automatic, so it has to
Yeah.
be very intentional. And
Yeah.
by changing hats, it kind of prep your state of mind. You also prepped the teammates' state of mind as well. There was once I was coaching in one coaching conversation to a newly promoted manager, and then she said that, I'm so torn because I want to make my team happy. She wants to uphold their happiness and give them happiness. I say, hey, wait a moment. Your employees or your team members are not pets. You only keep your pets happy. Whether they're happy or not is not your problem. What you do as a leader is to care enough for their growth, such that they can outgrow the company or thrive in the company or whatever. It's not happiness. Happiness is an output. It's not an outcome that you want to aim for.
That's interesting. That's funny, actually. But it is, right? Because if you're not very clear about what leadership is all about, then you have your own definition, right? Like, oh, so am I supposed now to be the chief happiness officer to make sure everyone is happy? Is that what I'm supposed to do, right? So in fact, I think that idea did come across my mind before, because I read somewhere before, happy people be able to deliver happier output, more output. So let's keep them happy, that kind of thing. So I think let's quickly help everyone to understand again, to define what the leadership is all about, right? So leadership, also from the book, right, really talks about, of course, being intentional of doing what, right? So two things. Number one is to understand that you need to deliver on the results together as a team, right? So you have this team, so you need to deliver the results together as a team. Whatever results, those things needs to be defined very clearly. So that's the first R. The second R is that along the way you need to be able to foster the relationship as well, right? To help them to grow, to bring out the best in them. So the mission is the destination, but because you are going somewhere together, along the way, that is where life happens. That's where the whole relationship building happens. That's where you bring out the best in that person. So I think the one of the best analogy I can think of is why some actors grow from certain directors in this case, because the director has a very clear mission to be able to complete this movie in this case, and this is the vision that I want to be able to tell in this case, right? And along the way, they bring out the best in the actors in this case, and they grew, and that the output shows in this case, and in the process, the actors grew as well, and they became better. So I think that's the balance of achieving results as well as also growing or fostering the relationship. So I think that's really important, that once you're a leader, that is what you need to do in this case. And there are times where you need to be able to have tough love as well, right? The loving discipline in this case, right? Why is because you care enough for the person to be able to say, I care enough for you to be able to give such feedback to you. It may sound harsh, but it is actually for your good in this case, right? I care enough. If I don't care, I would have just let you be.
Yes.
In this case, right? It's because I care enough. So I think those kind of so which means it is not just all pets, like keep them happy kind of thing, right? But it is able to achieve the corporate mission as well as also to be able to grow individually as well. So I think that definition needs especially new leaders to understand clearly why they are there, right?
Yes. And one thing I want to add is that, to your point, is that just like when you talk about switching hats, because in organization there are different types of conversations. And a lot of times it's through the conversations that we forge the relationship. And therefore, certain conversations really are meant for the professional capacity as a leader, as a reporting line officer, right? Is where like when you need to give someone feedback on the work, when you need to hold them accountable for not delivering, when you need to delegate and set clear outcomes. Those are really leadership professional conversations. There will also be some other conversations that is more at a personal level, like, you know, the care and concern. And the care and concern here doesn't mean that you cry with your team members when they break up with their spouse or something. But I think the care and concern is about, hey, you have certain patterns that is stopping your growth, you know, that kind of thing. Or when they are really truly affected by personal commitments and, you know, they're down and you hear them out. Those are the personal and relational type of conversations that then you should take off your manager hat to kind of like establish and reinforce that level of trust. So when we say as leaders we build trust and we build relationship, it doesn't mean that you're constantly can only be a friend, you know. And just take care of the soft side of things, so-called soft side. But a lot of times it's really about, you know, being aware of what the situation demands from you. Sometimes your team member come to you as a friend to talk to or complain about. Sometimes your team member come to you as a boss to ask for increment. You know, so it's about really understanding what each interaction requires. And therefore you have, as a leader, to have the capacity to respond effectively to each of those demands.
I think it goes back to the whole thing about being intentional. As well, right? To really understand from you know, on the other side, like, what is this person looking for? I mean, it would be annoying, for example, if you know, you being a coach and every conversation with your spouse is a coaching conversation. So what do you think would be...
We should cook tonight.
Why is it important to you
to eat fish and not vegetable?
You're right. Yeah, I think it is, you know, it is. So it's really intentional thinking about to say, okay, so sometimes really asking clarifying question to say, so what do you need from me at this point in time, right? Okay, great. Anything else to add on for this letter writer?
I think one more thing, the last thing I want to add is that given that there's a new role, the person is also navigating his role with the team. It would be a great opportunity to do it sooner than later, is that to establish rules of engagement, like how he wants the team to support him and how the team wants him or her to support them in return. Because it's new boss, new dynamics after all. So I think it's a good conversation to actually establish that trust and understanding.
I agree with you. I think this is, I think I was sharing in one of the episodes as well when I joined my last company in this case. So, and I was probably I was the most senior person there in this case by age wise. So everyone was about 22, 23 in this case.
Wow.
So when I went there, the things, you know, the scale tipped over to, you know, 57 or something.
You change your HR statistics.
So as much as I was very, very weary about this, because these are young bunch of people, and on one end I can take the stance of like, oh, I'm much more experienced, that kind of thing, right? But I also understand that young people, they may also not respect you because, like, hello, influencer marketing, what do you know, uncle? You know, that kind of thing, right? So I wanted to establish the rules of engagement. And how I did that was, there were about 40-50 people at the time. And I took about a month and a half to just have one-on-one conversations with everyone to understand them, to say like, okay, what are your pressure points? What's keeping you awake at night? You know, but if, I think one question that really helped a lot is that if you were in my shoes, what is the one thing that you feel that should be changed immediately, or what are things that you think that can be changed in this case, so that the company will be better? So things,
that's a great question.
So such conversations, right, actually help immediately to say that, okay, this person cares enough for the company, but also cares enough for me in this case,
Yes.
right? And of course, you just don't go through the exercise, then you just forget about it. So I actually written down on Excel sheet everyone, like what is important for them, whether or not they've got a particular pet or fears or whatever. So it's almost like a database, and then I would look at it and see what are the lower hanging fruits which I can immediately solve. So once I solve that, I'm accountable. I'll go back to them and say, so these things that you talked about the other day, I've already raised it up, I've done this and so on. So from there, I think ultimately, again, it is what they want ultimately is for to know that number one is that that the boss can do something, right? The boss is competent, right? That's the first level of trust in this case. And the second level of trust, or the second pillar of trust, is also that the boss has integrity. Whatever the boss says would actually carry it out as well.
Yep.
So that's the integrity or character part, right? So the first is competency, second thing is character, and the third one you talk about care as well, right?
Yes.
So to have care and concern in this case. So that is also to these are all the small things sometimes where if you can remember that this person's mom is going through something, and it's sometimes along the corridor you kind of say that, hey, how was the chemo, and so on. So things like this helps the person to know that you care enough. I think the other thing that most leaders don't do much, but that is something which I feel that can only be done after some level of trust is established, is the fourth C, which is challenge. I think it's important to be able to challenge them as well, because you want to bring out the best in them, right? So giving feedback and so on is not because I'm a boss I have to give feedback, it's because I want to see you grow. So that's the reason for it. So these are the so-called the 3 to 4 C's which actually would help to establish that trust, so that so that everyone will be performing. We'll actually create a high-performing culture in this case.
You brought up the very, very important point about trust. It is the little things. Yeah, it's really a lot of the little things, and it's the accumulation of it. And that's why some people see that leadership is a discipline. And this is also why that, sometimes leadership is not for everyone. Yeah, and there's nothing wrong if you don't embark on a leadership journey, but leadership is really about putting that heart in and care about the little things. You follow up on the trivial things, because behind every big stuff like strategy, how strategy look like on a day-to-day basis is accumulation of the different tasks you do. Yeah. So, and the same with relationship and trust. So that's why when it comes to the little things, it is important to keep that in mind. Yeah, it's about what kind of little things are you building trust, or you are breaching trust. Yeah, breaching the trust. So that's why a lot of leadership talk about being congruent. You have to be consistent, walk the talk. All these are made up of the little things, because to be honest, if you tell them that leadership only shows up in 3 times of each year, I think a lot of people can excel in that. It's like taking an exam. Yeah, there are many people who pass exam, but not everyone can call themselves a learner. Yeah. So I think that's something for all the young leaders to think about.
This reminded of one of Simon Sinek's viral video about relationships, right? It's all the little things that matters. So perhaps media is not helpful in a romantic relationship. You always see that the grand gestures, run after the other person, along the way, the rain, along the way you carry this bunch of flowers, then you budge the door, then you show your love, you complete me, that kind of thing, right? Yeah, so people think that, okay, these things, if I do these things, these grand gestures, it will work, right? But it's the little things, right? Similar in this case, leadership is about the little things anyway.
Yeah. That's true.
Great. Okay, so what are we telling the letter writer is that first thing is to understand that friendship and being a leader can coexist. So it's to be able to redefine how does that look like, right, for this person. Everyone can be different, but to understand that it is not an either or, it's not binary, but it can coexist in this case.
Yeah.
The second thing is also the letter writer needs to also understand the definition of leadership, like why is this person put there and what is the role of a leader. And we talk about able to drive results as a team, but also at the same time to be able to foster that relationship as well. And foster means to bring out the best, to grow in them. And we touched a little bit about trust as well. There are 4 facets or kind of like 4 pillars of trust. We talk about showing competency as a boss.
Yeah.
Second thing is to be able
Character.
to have the character, the integrity, whatever you say, you will actually do it in this case. Third one, to show care. And the fourth one, if need to be able to challenge as well, to give difficult feedback, not because you're the boss, but because you care enough for the person to give the kind of tough love in this case. And lastly, I think that the caring part, it's the little things, right?
Yeah.
To build that trust, it's very much like romantic relationships in this case, or spousal relationship. It's a little thing. Leadership is always about the little things that will help to create the bond or that trust in this case. And we also talked about that since this person has just been promoted, do not waste the opportunity to establish the rules of engagement up front, in this case, to have one-on-ones, to be able to just ask them to say what will be helpful for you to grow, or the other question that I said before, if you're in my shoes, what do you think that can change so that the company can grow? So these questions would be helpful, and to be able to establish that hey, I'm here to help you to grow, but I'm your guardian in this case, right? So I'm going to make sure, so there is a certain kind of like boundary that's really being drawn by having this one-on-one.
Yep.
Great. I'm learning a lot from this letter as well as I'm speaking to you. Did I cover everything?
Yeah, I think you've covered everything.
Okay.
Yes.
All right.
It was a good conversation. Thank you.
On to the last letter
Yes.
for the day, letter 3. Dear Building Better Leaders, I used to think being a leader meant setting direction and inspiring people, but these days I feel more like a firefighter, putting out conflict, dealing with people problems, managing egos. Last month, for example, I spent nearly 2 weeks mediating between 2 team leads who were locked in a turf war over a shared project. It was emotionally draining, endless one-on-ones, tiptoeing around egos and trying to get them to act like adults. By the time it was resolved, I was too exhausted to focus on anything strategic. It's hard to admit this, but I dread Monday mornings. I'm not burnt out from overwork, I'm burnt out from dealing with people. Is it normal to feel that way? Can leadership be reshaped to fit who I am, or am I just not cut out for this?
Oh, please don't feel this way.
What would you advise this letter writer? Where would you start with this person?
First, I want to give some hope that leadership is not like that. Although there might be moments or times that, temporarily can feel this way.
Yeah.
But it's like, well, the good news is that all these are symptoms. The fact that you are struggling and all this, it tells you that, okay, there might be some development areas that you can explore, right, to strengthen yourself. Yeah, so is from an analogy of, falling sick. Sometimes like you get a migraine here, you get a stuffy nose there. These are symptoms. It doesn't mean that you have to live like this. And therefore, it's really to unpack. I think the challenge here is about dealing with people.
Yeah.
So, first of all, I do acknowledge that leadership is complex. Yeah, it really takes intentional efforts, like what we just spoke about. It is not to be left by chance. And there are basically structural or process and relational challenges. What most times its surface seems to be relational or people challenges. The good news is that there are actually structural processes, aspects you can leverage or levers for you to pull to actually get things done. Yes. So one is really about, when it comes to mediating conflicts and all this, is it the ladder rider is in the position to mediate all these, or how can you actually systemize conflict management to actually get the whole team involved, to hold each other accountable, and and talk things out and find a way to systemize things when people feel unhappy about. All these can actually come from a system perspective. So leaders, a lot of time, is not about you overcoming problems yourself. But it's about how can you build a system that people can do things themselves.
Wow.
Yeah. So it's to take on that step, because a lot of time first-time leaders, especially first-time managers who are newly promoted, because they are promoted for being competent. And the biggest paradigm shift from an individual contributor to a leader is that as an individual contributor, you add value by doing things yourself, right, to demonstrate capability. But as a leader, and as the more senior you go, the bigger or the more complex system you need to build. And that is the value add that you truly give to the organization for being in leadership roles. Yeah. So I think it's really important to really unpack, although it appears like a people issue, but I think there are subsequently, it just tells me that maybe there are certain systems or processes not in place to support this, such that it all turns out into ego wars and, stuff like that. I'd like to hear your views. Yeah.
You brought a good point about, when a competent individual contributor is being promoted, most of the time it's because they have got technical skills to be able to solve it, right? So when this person used the word firefighting, it feels like, this person is approaching the problem like approaching a task, rather than approaching it to understand that it's actually a people issue in this case. Yes. So it's like, oh, I've got to solve this, right? So they put on the Bob the Builder hat, now then you got to fix it, right? In this case. So and I think we could be just using a wrong tool to a certain extent to be able to fix it. So instead of, like, for example, one thing that I may want to suggest for this letter writer is to consider maybe learning coaching, for example, learning coaching skills to be able to navigate and so on, and to be able to build, like you say, systems so that, to leverage on other people to be able to help solve it. So instead of because I'm the boss in this case, so I need to fix everything, right? Yeah. So I think this is the person needs to understand that yes, fix it, but not, you don't have to fix it everything yourself in this case, right?
All the time.
So it is also to be able to, when you coach somebody, then you're teaching them how to fish as well, so this thing won't happen again. Plus also, if you to build a supportive system enough that they will kind of sort it out on their own, right? So that is something which I would ask. I would probably recommend this letter writer to have this additional people skill management into his or her toolbox in this case, on top of the work that he or she is already doing. The other thing that I would probably ask this letter writer to do is to maybe do a personality test of some kind of test, right? Why is because if you don't know who you are, how you handle such stress in this case, right, or things which you are not very familiar with, so you could either absorb it like a sponge, or you could avoid it, or you could run away, or you can freeze, and so on, all these things, right? So in this case, I wonder if the letter writer is absorbing all these things like a sponge. So that's why it's really taking emotional toll on that person. Yeah. So if they understand their personality type, to say, oh, how I deal with such things is because I'm so and so, that kind of person, or then hence that's why I need to relook into how I deal with it. I think that's also very important. So it's to know yourself as well. So I think that is another thing that this letter writer can consider doing to understand how he or she can cope with stress.
Yep, that's
Yeah,
good.
any thoughts?
I think the two things that was brought up in the letter was the firefighting and also
Yeah.
the ego, right? So
Yeah.
there are many reasons why a team would end up firefighting. I think either it's a lack of clarity or structural issues, or that there was like competing priorities and nobody helped to prioritize, or that people are not airing concerns out early enough such that everything become a crisis. Yeah. So I think that these are some of the things to deep dive into to find out which is which. Yeah. I think what is challenging for a lot of young leaders or mid-management is that everything look like a ball of yarn where, everything is
Yeah.
convoluted and
Yeah.
tangled. And so learning how to differentiate and troubleshoot, I think, is a great skill to have to find out what is a real problem statement. And for ego fights, basically, it just leads to a few possible causes that people feel unheard of. That means they are not seen, they are not heard, they don't feel understood. And therefore, people get into a defensive or stubborn mode of trying to push their way through. Or people don't understand. So that's where the personality tool can come in to actually help the whole team understand one another better and how best to engage one another, where are the hot red buttons not to press, and what are the stress behaviors, what triggers each person. With a deeper level of understanding and alignment, I think usually the firefighting will stop. Yeah.
I think so what you're saying is to upfront understand what starts the fire and to prevent the fire from even starting in this case, right? I think it is really about, so if this person is running a small team, or maybe I would say that, so usually what I would advise for young leaders is that if you are going to be owning, imagine like owning your own asset, own house in this case, right? You're going to have some rules and engagement, or when someone comes to your house, you can't just be, doing all sorts of things. So there needs to be a certain kind of like, you come into my house, then you need to be behaving a certain way, or even if you come into my car, you need to be behaving a certain way in this case, right? So I think this needs to be established upfront. I'm not too sure whether the letter writer did establish such rules or engagement or culture, his or her culture. So I think that is where, like you say, the clarity may not be there. So, for example, revisit again the clarity of roles and responsibilities. Revisit again non-negotiables, right? Revisit again clarity of the outcomes, the mission for the why are they there in this case. So I think those things are really important, so that we can prevent the fire. I'm not saying the fire won't happen. I'm saying at least you can prevent the fire from appearing in this case. And so once you establish the ground rules, establish the rules of engagement and so on, then in fact that is where people can thrive further in this case, right? Because you've established the parameters so that they can kind of creatively run around the area.
Yes.
So rather than there's no boundaries, there's no so then it becomes very, there's no, people always say that it's like, if you draw boundaries and all, then you will limit the person's freedom in this case, which I totally disagree. It's because when there's no boundaries, in fact, there's no freedom, because you don't know what you can do. There's no rules engagement in this case. But when you draw a boundary, for example, like football, when you draw to say, okay, you need to be playing within this, and then these are some of the rules. Other than that, go ahead, here's the ball, play. You can see them really, really going all out to play, instead of like a whole giant field with no lines, right? It's like, where do I even start, that kind of thing. I'm just going to be playing one little corner, that kind of thing, right? But now to say, okay, this is everything that you can do within this, go ahead and play, and then you can see the joy and the freedom. So I think those things need to be able to set up front to say, this is how I would like to run my ship in this case, and so that you, again, just to prevent that burn out of possibility from over firefighting in this case.
I love the way you define boundary and the purpose of it. So, young leaders want to learn how to define what is a boundary versus what is a cage. I think what you're afraid is to be caged in, or to be
that's a good one.
micromanaged in. But that the boundary is meant to protect and give permission or empowerment. So, of course, when the boundary becomes so strong, it becomes like a brick wall, or and all this. Then it becomes a cage, right? So, as a leader, is always to revisit and upgrade that definition to see how big or how small the team is, and therefore what is the size of the so-called boundary or non-negotiable, so that people can operate safely without second-guessing one another all the time.
100%.
Whether I'm touching a boundary, and because like you say, if it's just a wide open field, different people will bring their own boundary in. It's not that it won't be a boundary. Then you end up like, sometimes I don't even know if I've crossed the boundary of someone else's. And it gets so unclear, and everybody has a second guess, and then it's just not helpful.
Okay, great. I think the other thing that I would probably ask, if this thing, okay, even after all this thing this person have tried, but this person still feel extremely burnt out, I think the question that this person need to really ask themselves is that, really are they cut out for leadership in this case, right? It's going to be an honest conversation, because some people, they just love to be an individual contributor rather than taking care of people below them, because for whatever reason, so it's like, I think like earlier on that you said that not everyone is cut out to be a leader, same as not everyone is cut out to be a parent, right? In this case, right? So it's not for everyone, and to understand that leadership, the primary role does come with all this conflict management and this and so on, right? And it's not just task only in this case. So I think it's something which the letter writer needs to be able to ask that question. And I would like to probably finish off this thought of mine with a movie reference, since I am
Movie.
movie enthusiast. But I think it's the Top Gun Maverick, right? The second Top Gun in this case. And for those who haven't watched it yet, this is not a spoiler. So Top Gun as a Maverick, Tom Cruise in this case, after many years, of course, he was brought back into the academy, and his role was to grow the whole bunch of new recruits in this case, right? And he tried. He really tried. He failed miserably. He just didn't know how to go about doing it in this case, right? And he found that he was just better being a maverick in this case, just being that person that goes out there to the front line, rather than being a teacher in this case, or being a trainer. Yeah. So, but it took him a while. He tried. He did not say he didn't. He wasn't stubborn about it. He tried and so on. Yeah. But he just found it very difficult, right? So I think it's a question you can ask yourself, like, am I really cut out for this as well? But of course, I would say please try out whatever that we have said. But after a while, if it's still not working out, then maybe you need to revisit this question of, really, am I cut out to be in a leadership position?
Yes, I think the key point is whether you have tried hard enough to begin with, to give yourself a chance, right? Because I want to urge or encourage all young leaders is that whatever you feel uncomfortable or difficult doesn't mean it's not good for you.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So when now being first-time managers, you're dealing with a lot of people issues that you feel like, oh my God, it's so difficult and so emotionally draining. But is it good for you? I would say yes, if you look on the hindsight. Yeah, after a year or two, you try hard enough and you try to learn how to overcome all these. It really serves you great in your life throughout, in all situations. When one day you become a parent, when one day you have to deal with someone else, close, that you cannot walk away all the time. So I think leadership really is a rehearsal for life, I feel.
Yes.
Especially for parenting role, before you become a parent, try to be a leader first. And because you picked up a lot of skills from there. So I do want to urge leaders, before they conclude that they are are not good with this or that, I think try hard enough and see what can you grow out of. Yeah.
Fantastic. Okay. Do you think we covered everything that we needed to cover for this letter writer?
I think so. I think that would be a good start for him or her.
Okay, so what are we saying to the letter writer is that first is to acknowledge, first of all, is to normalize the fact that this is part of the package. This is part of being a leader in this case. And to your most recent point, it is to try, to understand that this is all part of it and to continue to work on it in this case. Because it will be really helpful for you, especially if you decide to be a parent later on, or it's going to be helpful for much later on. I mean, especially people management in this case. So I think that is to understand that it comes with the package that you sign up for, being a leader, and also to some of the skills or some of the things that this person can consider, this letter writer can consider, is also not to do this all by themselves or by himself in this case, but to be able to create a culture or a system to to say that's all of us, we can actually do this together in this case, right? And some skills that this person can consider is to learn how to coach better. That's one, and also perhaps take on a personality test to understand how they cope with stress in this case. And we talked about as well to set it up front in terms of clear expectations, clarity of the rules or engagement, right? To draw proper boundaries, but not cagey sort of boundaries, but to be able to draw enough boundaries for them to say, hey, this is the freedom and this is the permission that you can operate in this space, so that they don't feel stifled, they don't feel that they're being micromanaged. I think a lot of times, I think what really caught my attention is when you say that it's not about cage, right? It's about giving them that. If not, then everyone will bring in their own set of boundaries, which will not be very helpful for them, and then it wouldn't be a safe space for them to play in this case. And I think, so I think that's about it. That I tried to capture everything. Yeah. Did I miss anything?
Nope. I think that was
okay.
Yes.
So we have come to the end of today's exciting episode of Building Better Leaders. But again, thank you very much for all the letters from everyone here that's listening. Please continue to write in to us. There will be a link at the below of the show reel in this case. Look in the comment box on how you can write to us. But thank you very much for this letters you've written, and thank you very much, Seok Hian, for being the companion to answer some of this. And also I'm learning a lot from this conversation as well, getting me to rethink again on some of the multi-dimension approach, right, to looking at things. Because indeed you're right. I mean, we've written a book about intentionality, but it just cannot be operating in a vacuum. Intentionality here means to look all around us and to kind of recalibrate again, and to synthesize again, to say, with all this information, how can I intentionally show up to be a better leader in this case, right? To be able to add value, to be able to help someone to grow and so on, by taking all these things into consideration. So I appreciate your time today, and for those who have listened to us all the way here, thank you very much. And like, comment, share this in this case, because the more that you share, the more you comment and so on, we'll be able to reach out further to those who need such information to help them navigate better, especially if they have just been newly promoted to be a leader, right? So with that, thank you very much, and we'll see you next episode.
Yes, see you. Bye.
Building Better Leaders with Kausern Hieu podcast is the advice column for leaders today. Produced and edited by me, Susan Yong. Got a leadership challenge at work? Send us a letter today. More information in the description box.